Hanson. Happy Valentine's Day to you all. You're welcome. Very excited viewers at home that you are here with us. So happy Valentine's to you, Taylor, Zach and Isaac. You were at Bridgewater Hall in Manchester night before last. You're at Rock City in Nottingham tonight. And what can the crowds expect?
Well, I mean, it's a completely different show. You see the video, I mean, with a full orchestra. I mean, we've gotten to play with some incredible symphonies in the U.S. already. And now we're, sharing this with, I mean, one thing about this is it's almost like going to an ultimate listening party. We encourage people to sort of actually sit and just take it in, because you have this full orchestra wrapped around a rock band, and there's songs I mean, there are songs, like Mmmbop's in the show, Where's the Love, this time around. And then, but it's really story. I mean, it's sort of taking people on this musical ride, and a lot of people, like, we've seen orchestras afterwards be like, hey, thank you so much for doing this with us, because they see people coming to see symphony shows that aren't typically seeing symphony shows, and obviously we're excited to see some of that world come to check out our show in a different way. Sort of it meets in the middle, I mean, we obviously all know from the fact that, when you were barely out of short trousers, you were all incredibly talented musicians. So, but for this, I mean, you were clearly involved in the arrangements of the as well, classics and new music. Right. Yeah. Well, we all started off playing classical piano, so knowing how to read music, but knowing how to score the whole symphony is a totally different thing. So we worked with a great arranger named David Campbell, who's won Oscars, and he'd worked on our records in the past, and so it was a great way to just bring somebody in you were comfortable with that could really take all our ideas and then go, we're like, this is what we want it to sound like. He's like, oh, you meant like this? And we're like,
well, it's even better.
So much of what you do as an artist is to push yourself. I mean, if you're excited about something, you can be excited to share it. And so you're asking your fans to come with you and have stories to tell. And so the idea of setting this bar of like, hey, what if we did this with an orchestra? And it allows us to take the show to places we've never been before.
You're talking about the story. In a lot of ways, the story of the show is really the story of us. It's sort of,
our lives.
You could say if a greatest hits is what you've done, the story of string theory is really why we've done it. And so as people listen to the lyrics and they hear these songs, I mean, you're really talking about sort of your manifesto almost.
A quarter of a century in the music business. I mean, this is how you started. We all remember you bursting onto the scene.
I have that shirt, actually.
Yeah. You're lucky you can still fit into it. That's some good going. But Mmmbop is possibly one of the catchiest tunes ever written, and it is a song that everyone remembers. You only have to mention it and everyone starts singing it. So from that point on, how has your musical journey grown? Because people always hark back to that song in a good way. So they do though, don't they? So,
and we're so proud of that song because, I mean, it's a song that we wrote when I was 8, right? And to be able to still sing it and what it talks about the passage of time, that most things in life won't last, won't matter much.
You do different things with it as well, don't you?
And so, I mean, we wouldn't have included it in the show if the story and the message that's in that wasn't key to who we are as people. And so
the other key thing, I mean, what he says, it was a song we wrote, and so the fact that we started off as young as we did, it was always our music. And I think that's part of what's allowed us to move forward. And I mean, the songwriting, the love of craftsmanship is really what's always driven us to do what we do.
And the scary thing is actually that was 5 years into our band playing. That's the scary part, right?
I have to ask, how on earth are you guys still talking to each other? I mean, not just 25 years in a band, 25 years in a band with your brothers. I spent 5 minutes in a room with mine, and we're at each other's throats.
It's
cognitive dissonance, maybe. I don't know.
I will say, interestingly, I think interviews, getting to talk about your process, getting to talk about, it is kind of therapeutic to sit next to each other and talk about each other. So
don't turn this into a therapy session.
I will also say
share some things right now.
I will also say though that there is a little bit of, when the workday is over, there is a tendency to scatter a bit because you do spend so much time together that there is definitely a need for separation, and that's healthy. I mean, it's a little bit like when you're married for, as my wife and I've been for a dozen years, you still got to go on dates and you got to remember to do that. Similarly, in a band with brothers, you actually got to do the opposite. You're like, I've been around you a little too much. It's time for some room.
There's a song in this show called What Are We Fighting For? And it's not theoretical. I mean, it's about us. And so that's something you deal with, but we love what we do, so you keep finding the way through it.
Well, there's still a lot of love in the room, which is good because it's Valentine's Day. As I mentioned before, you're playing Rock City in Nottingham tonight. tonight. Any Valentine's Day treats for the fans?
Maybe a few extra love songs just for, you know.
Hold on,
for
real
the
quick.
There we go.
Yeah.
My suggestion, yes.
That was just for you, Neil.
Unfortunate reality. What just happened?
You know, we'll play some music, and hopefully they'll bring their dates, and we'll make it a great night.
And I know your families are back in the US, and I'm
Yeah.
breaking a bit of confidence here. During the ad break, they did say the time difference is helping because they forgot it was Valentine's Day. So some last-minute flower deliveries are heading their way.
Throwing us under the bus.
Keep the wives happy. Keep the wives happy. Lovely to see you, Hanson. Good luck with the rest of your tour, and thank you for coming in to see us. There you go. Hanson out on tour up and down the UK right now.